for anybody who doesn't know the lovely Reverend Joy Powell, you can go to her website, rejoypowell.org, and you can find out a lot about Joy's case right there. But Joy basically was fighting against police brutality, violence, and oppression in Rochester. And she was warned by the Rochester Police Department many times that she was a target because of her speaking out against corruptions. So on many occasions from 1995 to 2006, Reverend Joy held rallies, spoke out against police brutality in Rochester, New York. So then they framed her up in 2006. She was accused and convicted of first-degree burglary and assault. And she is sure that that prosecution was politically motivated based on her activism through her organization, Equality and Justice for All. She was tried by an all-white jury. The state provided no evidence and no eyewitnesses. She was not allowed to discuss her activism or say that she was a pastor. The person who testified for her was not allowed to tell the court that he knew Reverend Joy through their activist work and the church. Furthermore, the judge, Francis Affronti, promised he was going to give her a harsh sentence because he was biased against her. While serving a 16-year sentence for the conviction, a cold murder case was pinned on her in 2011. And that trial was also fraught with misconduct, but she was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. So she's currently working on appealing these wrongful convictions. So I've been visiting Joy on the regular for quite some time. Wonderful human being, and very busy, and always supporting everybody inside, as all our political prisoners do. And we have her brother here, Bishop Brown. So Bishop Brown, if you would like to speak about your sister, we would love to hear from you.
It is definitely a pleasure to talk about Apostle Joyce, who has been one who never seems to give up. She has that spirit of God can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And she is in that all things category. And I'm believing that through the process of prayer and intervention, this thing will be overturned. I believe when Joyce comes out, she will be a speaker that can help a lot of other young people rectify the injustices that they encounter. Many who are incarcerated now that just went through the system without any type of guidelines to help them through, and they're stuck in stuff. And I believe that as Apostle Joyce move forward and God open those doors, I think she's going to make a metamorphosis, not just in that community, but around the world. We're trying to get somebody to write her book right now. And I think that book will be one that opens up the real story about Apostle Joyce Powell. I love her very much. And she requested I sing a song. And
okay.
I want to sing this song for her. I'm in my backyard, and she used to come out here, and she used to get around this pool, and this is where she used to hang out with us around here. So I want her to see where we were at my house. And she used to come here and just what joy she brought to my home. When my son died, she was right there for him. She came, that's the last thing she did. But before she went in, she came to my son's funeral. And I want to sing this song that God just kind of changed the words around to make it wholesome for her. And it says, free at last, free at last. I believe Apostle Joy's gonna be free at last. Free at last. Free at last. I believe Apostle Joy's gonna be free at last. I'm believing that story. I'm hanging on to that because she has so much to offer. And I thank you and all those who come on today for being an activist for the activists. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. You have a beautiful voice. All right. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Alana, since you're there, I know you're in transit, but if you would like to say, I know you know Joy very well, and you visit her often, and you get her food packages, and go ahead and talk about Joy and how you know Joy. And
Yeah, I'm happy to. I hope that I'm not super choppy. I am in a car, so maybe my service is all right. Can y'all hear me okay?
yeah, can you?
Okay, perfect. Um, so my name is Alana. I met Joy through Survived and Punished New York, which is an
Now that's better.
supports incarcerated survivors. How's this?
Yeah,
Is
we
this
can hear
better?
you now. It was just that for a second
Oh,
there, you were a little garbled. Go ahead.
okay. Let me try turning my video back on. Okay, so I've known Joy for a few years now. Knowing and loving Joy has been such a deep honor for me. We talk very frequently over JPay, even though our messages are consistently delayed or rejected, as I'm sure
Yeah.
many of you experience. And we speak on the phone. Like Anne said, I help with ordering her monthly packages, which a whole slew of people donate for, which is just speaks to how amazing Joy is that so many people want to support her. My favorite thing though is being able to visit Joy in person.
Yeah, now you're breaking up again.
She has a warmth that
Yeah, unfortunately, you're
can
breaking up
feel,
again a
and
little
she
bit,
makes me
Alana.
laugh.
Go ahead.
Should I try calling in? Would that be better?
I don't know. I have no idea. We can hear you now. It's probably just, since you're traveling and you're probably not on a main road. Right? Go ahead, talk again. Let's see.
Yeah, in a nice.
Oh, well. All right. So Alana is unfortunately in transit. So she
Yeah,
wasn't.
sorry, y'all.
Now we can hear
Okay.
you now.
Joy. Oh,
Yeah, Alana is very good friends with Joy. You saw what she said about so many people contributing for food packages and things like that. Of course, the JPay, very important to mention the JPay because they do delay things all the time. I'll be sending Joy something. Um, Alana says she'll try just sending what she was going to say in the chat. That will be fine. We'll read it out loud. So well, often we're trying to communicate by JPay and things get delayed. Joy will say, well, I never got this thing. Did you send this thing? And I'll be like, okay, I've sent it for the third time. I know Neo has been doing work for Joy for a long, long time and is a longtime supporter and friend of Joy. She should be calling in to Neo at about 3, hopefully, and we'll get to hear from Joy herself, which will be fantastic. Sorry about not being able to hear more from Alana. She said she'll put it in the chat. So when she does, we'll read it out loud. Oh, here we go. Alana says, hold on, let me get there. Alana says, I met Joy through Survived and Punished New York, and we've been in touch for the last few years. Knowing and loving Joy has been such a deep honor for me. We talk frequently over JPay, even though our messages are constantly delayed or rejected, and we speak on the phone. My favorite thing is being able to visit Joy in person, though. She has warmth that everyone can feel and makes me laugh constantly. She's also a fashionista. Every time I visit her, she's dressed to the nines. When I saw her in February, she was wearing a fabulous scarf that was matched to her lipstick and her nails and eyeshadow. Joy is so incredibly thoughtful. Somehow, while under the most oppressive conditions, she remains loving and giving. She makes birthdays so special, which is why she deserves the most special one. Every year for my birthday, she sends me a homemade card and homemade gift with her own time and money. I brought my friend to meet Joy in February, and Joy immediately started making them a birthday gift for their birthday in March. What I am most in awe of is Joy's fierce self-advocacy and hope. After so many years of unjust and wrongful incarceration, Joy remains joyful and works every day to ensure her release. Joy deserves to be free and with her loved ones. I look forward every day to whenever she's released and we can sit together outside of Bedford walls. Happy, happy, happy birthday, Joy. May your next be in freedom. I love you so much. I also currently send her monthly food packages with donation support from at least 20 people outside. That just speaks to how amazing Joy is, that so many people are committed to making sure her needs are met. So that is from Alana. And as you can see, you know, as we all know, anybody who's met Joy, we know how joyful and wonderful that she is and how caring she is for all of the other women inside, because Joy will often get herself in trouble because she's advocating for the other women. And the other thing that Joy will always do when she gets her food package and so on is she shares. She shares with other women. There are some women who don't get visitors. There are some women whose family can't afford to send them a food package. So she'll get in the kitchen with these other women and they'll cook a whole meal together, you know, which is really a beautiful thing that Joy consistently does. And Alana says, yes, she always makes meals for people for holidays inside for folks who don't have people. Yes, she does. And, you know, that's really admirable. And it just shows, you know, the quality of human being that Joy is, you know, that she's always giving and always loving and always helping other people. And like Neo, you know, I know we're waiting for Joy to call, but before she calls, Neo, if you would like to talk about Joy as well, because I know you've been supporting her for a long time.
All right. Well, greetings to everyone. You know, Joy is one of those exceptional people who she makes an impact on your life irregardless, because it's never really about her. It's always about you. She adopts you and takes you on as immediate family member, and your relationship grows based off of that. She's never been a woe is me type of person. She has always been concerned with the welfare of others. She always says, hey, she was dealt a hand she didn't deserve, but that's not going to define who she is as a person. And therefore, she is unbreakable in that respect. And it's heartwarming to know that she has many supporters out here, because in these situations, that is what these authorities and governments do. They try to estrange these people from their family and from the community, which she works so hard to assist, even though Joy has similar backgrounds as many of us, and we struggle to survive on the streets, and we make bad choices, and we do things that maybe we, under other circumstances, we wouldn't have had to. And she in turn recognized some of the mistakes that she made, and she has devoted herself to her community. And it's unfortunate that certain entities would, you know, just conclude that, like so many others, that, hey, we don't have to abide by the law. We don't have to be just. You're creating a problem for us. You're highlighting our wrongs and putting them on the spotlight. And instead of doing the right thing, they decided, well, hey, we're going to put you somewhere where we think that we can repress your voice. And unfortunately, in Joy's case, that has not been possible. So, you know, for me personally, after speaking with her, you know, the greatest thing is the support. She still needs that support. She's still fighting to be exonerated. So all of the help that she can get, even with her everyday needs, being in Bedford, because Bedford is unlike any other facilities that I've had to encounter in my interactions with other political prisoners, even with my own family members that have been incarcerated. Bedford Hills will take her information, they will censor it, and so it's kind of difficult sometimes with the whole communication thing, but we still work our way around that. The only thing that I would suggest to many people, because Joy is that, like I say, she's always welcoming to everybody and very, very supportive. If you're in that area of New York and you can go visit her, please feel free to reach out. I'm quite sure she'll make that arrangement possible. We should be talking about these political prisoners every chance we get. They should be household names. because they made those types of impacts in their communities. And Joy is that person. And I'm hoping, just the same as the previous guest, that she will be exonerated very soon, and she can join the community, and she can bring her joy back to the community where it belongs, where she can help and mentor and assist so many others in their journey. Because we got to stop falling into traps. We got to stop allowing for our children to be snatched up off of these streets, and they're not guilty of any types of crime. So that's, I'll yield there. But like I say, please reach out, go to freejoypowell.org, and all of the information should be there for individuals to make an effort to connect with Joy. Believe me, you will not regret that experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neo. Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I visit Joy fairly regularly. I'm not that far away. I'm in the Bronx. It's only about an hour on the Metro North. And it's always great to see her. And as Alana said, she's always beautifully dressed in terms of everything matching. She's very good at that. And it's wonderful to see her. And she always is exuding, you know, a lot of love and a lot of good energy. And the other thing, as we've been saying, that she does is always taking care of the other women. And yeah, play Scrabble with her, Alana. You're right. Loves to play Scrabble. And so, you know, that's one thing you can do with Joy is play Scrabble. But aside from that, you know, you can have a wonderful visit. You can feel when you leave, you can feel uplifted, you know, which is really amazing. You know, she has that kind of energy that she will uplift everybody. And I know that right now, very unfortunately, one of the young women, Judith Johnson, actually committed suicide yesterday. So I spoke with Joy briefly yesterday, and she was very busy trying to comfort the other women who, of course, are all upset by this horrible, you know, reality of prison, which is why we call them death camps, because they are. And, you know, it's a young woman in her 20s, took her own life, and really a horrible situation. And Joy, being who she is, as a reverend and a pastor, is busy, of course, you know, talking with the other young women and comforting them. And, you know, that's a very hard thing to do. Oh, and Ilana says that Survived and Punished New York is hoping to begin working on a clemency campaign for Joy. We will need folks who are part of her support system to be part of her pod. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me at alana.lipkin6@gmail.com. And that's in the chat. So people should make sure they save the chat as well. I will also save the chat. Yes, Joy will be eligible for clemency according to the state of New York after August 15th, 2026. Then she will have done 2/3 of her sentence. Then she will be eligible for clemency. So she has a good case for that. You know, in addition to having been totally wrongfully convicted twice, which is, you know, really outrageous. Joy is now 62 years young, right? She has diabetes. She is hearing impaired, right? So, you know, there's a good chance for the clemency. And Alana, I will definitely join you in that endeavor. And, you know, in addition to working on getting her wrongful convictions overturned, you know, which could happen, but which is always a difficult path. You know, once you've been convicted, they consider you guilty no matter what. And, but in addition to that, you know, we have a fundraiser for Joy, fundraiser.com, Free Joy Powell. We're raising money for legal defense, you know, so that people can contribute to that. I'll put it in the chat. And, you know, we will do everything possible to be able to bring Joy home, right? And we will be very happy when that happens. We're not going to say if, we're going to say when. When that happens, we will be quite celebratory. And we will then, before that happens, we will also be trying to raise some money so that when she gets out, she is not bereft. You know, that's something that we as Jericho do for all our political prisoners, try to raise some money so that when they walk out the door, they at least have a little cushion to fall back on. Because, you know, you walk out the door, you don't have any medical coverage, you don't have any social security, you know, all kinds of stuff, and it's not easy. So, we have to think about that as well. And so, as I say, anybody wants to go meet Joy, let me know. I'll be more than happy to go with, or you can go on your own, not a problem. Be in touch with her, you know. You can write to her on JPay, very easy to do. Joy Powell, number 07G0632. You can set up a JPay account if you don't have one already. And as Alana says, that can sometimes be somewhat difficult because things are delayed. Now, I don't know if they're delayed by Securus, which is who JPay is, or if they're delayed by the prison system, or both. But, it's just like any other mail that you send to a prisoner. Everything is read. Everything is, viewed and seen. So, just be careful what you say or don't say because, you don't want to get anybody in problems by saying the wrong things, which there isn't many wrong things you could say to Joy because, she's like such a joyful person, and that's why we call her Joy. Her real name is Joyce. But the women at Bedford decided that since she was bringing so much joy, they would call her Reverend Joy. So we call her Reverend Joy Powell. And hopefully she will be calling in soon. That's hard to, it's a prison phone. So, we know how that can be. A lot of people want to use the phone, might have to wait around. Neo's going to let us know when she calls in. We'll put him on right away so we can hear from Joy herself. And her birthday was actually the 5th. We were doing it today because it's hard during the week, to be doing stuff on the actual day of. We would have liked to have done it on her actual birthday, but I would encourage everybody. I have been encouraging people since before by putting it out there. You can write to Joy. You could certainly send her a birthday card, even if it's belated. You could give her some money for her commissary, always helpful and always needed because she shares that with other women, some of whom do not get visits, some of whom do not have any commissary. And, you're helping not only Joy, but you're helping the women in general in Bedford Hills. So that would be a wonderful thing for people to do. And Alana, do you want to say a little bit more in the chat about what is survived and punished, just so people know?
Sure. Can y'all hear me now, perchance?
Oh, we can hear you now. Great.
Yeah, it looks like I have more bars, so I'm gonna try my best. But again, if it cuts out, I'll just put it in the chat. Thank you for reading what I've been putting there. Survived and Punished there's a national organization, and then there's a New York-based faction of that organization. And Survived and Punished mainly does work with incarcerated survivors of DV and IPV, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, and gender-based violence. And so usually these are all women. So most of the folks that Survived and Punished works with are in Bedford or Taconic or Albion in New York State. And the goal is to create connections. So we stay in touch as pen pals. So that's why we talk on JPay so often and talk on the phone and talk in mail. And everyone has an individual inside member or multiple that they're in touch with. And another element of Survived and Punished work is providing some commissary funds and some food package funds to our inside members. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of donations and we aren't funded. And so we've had to lower the amount of money that we can put towards packages, which is why I supplement with outside friends and advocates donations. Another element of Survived and Punished is a newsletter that inside members contribute to that is really beautiful. They contribute art, writing. Joy has had a bunch of her writing and poems in there. If you don't have the honor of receiving Joy's writing, she is a beautiful writer, and a lot of her writing is on her website, and she also will send it out to people that she's in touch with on JPay. So there's a newsletter, and there's also this element of working on clemency campaigns for inside members and helping folks who are eligible with their DV SJA applications. Those are the applications for folks who are survivors of domestic violence and have been convicted for quote unquote crimes related to that. To help them get released, because obviously those are, like most convictions, unjust and invalid. So that's some of the work that Survived and Punished does. If you want to find out more about the work that we do, we have a website, And we do fundraisers to help raise money for people's commissary and food packages.
That's great, Alana. Could you put the link to the website in the chat so people can, you know,
Absolutely.
access that information and read the newsletter? Yeah, speaking of Joy's writing, you're right. She's an incredible writer. And she writes fairly regularly. She also does extensive poetry. Anything that I get from her, I always put out on our listservs, and I post it up to Jericho NY website. She wrote a beautiful piece about Martin Luther King recently. So, you know, there's always, you know, she's a pretty amazing person. I really, it blows me away, you know, how much wonderful energy Joy always has, considering, you know, the circumstances that she is in. So, you know, did you have your hand up, Diggs? Did you want to say something?
I just had a quick question. I could wait till later though.
It's okay, go ahead.
So I grew up in the area where Joy is captured and held right now. And I have a lot of like connections still to the community around. There's a community center right down the road, a mile from the prison. They're, you know, they have a food pantry and everything. They get tons of donations every week. I know the director there. And if there isn't already a relationship there, I wonder if I could help facilitate something to get food donations inside to Joy or to others via the community center. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Wow, now that's great. I mean, I would say definitely make the attempt. I mean, talk to them and see if they have a relationship already. That's great. And if they don't, you know, they could definitely start one.
Okay.
I know there was a local group that helped last summer with the fans because, among other things, Bedford Hills is an older prison. They do not have any air conditioning. So, you know, during the summer when it was so mad hot, you know, these poor women were like just constantly sweating all day long. And I see, Neo, you have your hand up. Is Joy on?
No, not yet. But I would like to share something with all in attendance that Joy wrote, if that's possible.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, this is from a website, and it's called Woman with a Voice. It reads, I am a woman who has a voice. My name is Joyce C. I hate the name Joyce. Prior to my wrongful conviction, I was an anti-violence activist, clergy, and hairstylist. My life speaks volumes, no need for profiling. In 1998, a young boy was murdered on the side of my hair salon in the broad daylight. It didn't sit right. The gunshots rang out, pop, pop. I was beyond terrified. I ran for my life. The pain in my heart, it cut like a knife. The vic's name was Shaquan. Wasn't transferred to the morgue until the break of dawn. I'm shook, breathing hard and looking around. His lifeless body laid on the ground. His eyelids open wide. Senseless murder, I cried, wondering how many bodies got smoked outside. I thought, oh my God, this neighborhood is unsafe. I had this business, but wanted to escape. The culprit was only 16 and life gone to waste. Caught him a body and murder was the case. So I sacrificed my life to cater to the youth, not a permanent residence. I'm just passing through. I'm optimistic and adamant about obtaining my exoneration. Under God's declaration, this is my dedication. It's all about proper perspective and presentation. Dealt a hand I didn't deserve, accepted my call to protect and serve. With God, I will win, and that's my word. My life and choices can make a difference in spite of what appears to be my demise. I forgive all of my enemies that plotted against me and lied. Thought they was rocking me to sleep. Had no idea they were setting me free. I'm working on obtaining my paralegal degree. Will travel once again wholeheartedly to enlighten where I came from, called the urban. Was never viewed as a threat or a burden. The mentally ill, downtrodden, and battered women, shedding light on repercussions and consequences. Don't care what people think, is how you feel about self. Read, write, stay focused, and you'll gain the wealth. Wear your mask and wash your hands to protect your health. In other words, it's called self-help. Without a voice and meaningful words, trust me, people, you'll never be heard. The end.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, beautiful. Thank you so much. Anyway, what I was saying was, there's no air conditioning supposedly, which I failed to figure out. If you have central heat, you can have central air. So there was a local group. I don't know if it's the same one, Diggs. It might have been a different one. But they did a little fundraiser and were able to provide, even though it wasn't much, provide some small fans for the women so that everybody could have at least a small fan in their cell to put the, little hot air around. I see Alana put in a nice picture of her and Joy back in November. So that's nice to see in the chat there. Thank you, Alana. Yes, I have some nice pictures too of me and Joy on visits. And there's a lot of the really nice pictures on her website and on her Facebook page. You can follow her on all social media. She's everywhere to be found. And hopefully we will be hearing from her soon. As soon as Neo gets the call, he will, of course, take over and we will hear from Joy herself. As I say, you can't say exactly when because it is a prison phone system. And of course, she can't join us on a Zoom. That would be really nice. But that is, of course, not allowed. But I encourage everybody, go to her website, freejoypowell.org, read her story, read her writings. Her writings are really beautiful. See what you can do. You don't have to do everything, but you can try, certainly share her story around. Let people know about her. If you're in a place where you can visit, they do have visits on weekends are alternate 8 LM to Z, Saturday and Sunday. If you go to the DOC's website, they do list the whole visiting schedule for weekends. If you go on a weekend, you can only be 2 people. If you go during the week, you can be more than that. But we found that out one time. I went with 2 other women to visit Joy on a weekend because we were used to, in most prisons, you can have 3 visitors on a weekend. And they were like, oh no, only 2 of you can go in at once. So I was like, really? That's strange, especially since the tables are set up for 4 people. But anyway, so we had to split it up. But just so you know ahead of time, if you're going on a Saturday or a Sunday, check the website to see which weekend it is, because they do the A to LM to Z thing. And as Alana said, make sure you play Scrabble with Joy. She's an excellent Scrabble player, and she will beat you. Not that you have to do that, but it's fun. It's something to do to pass the time. Make sure you bring in some money so you can get some food from, vending machines. Be prepared to have to empty your pockets and all that stuff, because they do make you do that. And, and then you have a wonderful visit with Joy and you'll get to know her. There's another beautiful picture that Alana just put in the chat. Very nice picture of Joy. And that was in the warmer weather, obviously, and we were outside. And then we had another thing that happened, speaking about being outside. At one point, there was this some kind of infestation of some kind of insects, and it was in the entire unit. And Joy had all these bug bites. I mean, they were just huge. I mean, they were horrible. And so nicely, we went outside. It was during the warmer weather. We went outside, and thank you, Alana, for putting the schedule there. And the woman who was taking photographs that day took some pictures. So we did have pictures of these bug bites, and we got in touch. I got in touch with the Correctional Association of New York, and I sent them this information, and I sent them the photographs, and I said, this is infecting the entire unit. And they did follow up, and they did, as Joy said, for the first time in all the years she's been there, an exterminator came and they exterminated the entire unit because, she wasn't
Can
thrilled.
y'all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm Joy's kid's father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let her know Pastor Wright is on.
I will let her know. Here you are. She hasn't come on yet. We're waiting for her.
Okay. Is her
anything-
brother on yet? Is Moses on? Pastor Moses Brown?
Yeah, Moses is on. He spoke earlier. Yes, he's here.
Oh, okay. He's
Yeah.
still on?
Yeah, you're still on, right, Bishop Brown?
Moses, I don't see your face.
Well,
Hello?
he is there. So anyway, just to say about, that whole thing. So then what happened was, I looked at this picture, it reminded me, Then everybody was told that nobody would be allowed to go outside. All right. So, they have this little garden area outside and a little yard, so you can like run around a little bit and the kids can run around a little bit. So after they were caught, with this horrible infestation and it got taken care of, they were so annoyed that they decided that none of the women could go outside. Now that was last summer. I don't know if they're still doing that. Hopefully they are not. But it was, quite a punishment for everybody that all of a sudden nobody could go outside. It wasn't just that you couldn't take pictures outside. You couldn't go outside in the yard at all. And that was, something that was their fault, Why is there some kind of infestation of biting insects? And in addition to that, there are mice, there are all kinds of things that don't get taken care of. So, that should be considered, but I did thank the Correctional Association of New York because they were on it right away. They went up, they did an inspection. They have the right to do that. They're one of the few people who can go inside the prisons and do inspections. And they had the exterminator come, and that took care of at least that problem. So
We
hopefully,
appreciate all the activism you do to get things turned around. It takes people like you. Thank you so much for your input.
hey, that's what we do as Jericho. We're always advocating for all of our political prisoners. And that kind of condition is just totally unacceptable. I mean, we have pictures of those bug bites. I mean, they were really large. And poor Joyce, she was getting eaten alive. And, it was the whole unit. It wasn't just her. And so I said, I'll see what I can do. I mean, that was really the Correctional Association of New York. Since I know them, I said, let me get in touch with them. So I wrote up a whole piece and I, scanned in the pictures and sent it to them and all that. And they said, oh yeah, we're definitely elevating this. We're going to be there. We're going to take care of this problem. So really happy that they did that, Bishop Brown, because it was very important. Gregory, anything you want to say about Joy?
Well, she's a good person, and I've been knowing her just about all my life. I got saved through her. She won me to Christ, maybe about 40 something years ago. We have a beautiful set of children. We got 2 sons deceased. We got 2 living, bunch of grandchildren and great grand. But she always been a leader. She always been an outspoken person. And it would be a blessing. We thank God for people like you standing with her and helping her and to encourage her, because I believe it's time for her to come home now. She started, been in that place over 16 years. She got grandkids she haven't even met, great grandchildren she haven't even met or known. And after all those many years, I think the Justice Department should consider, now, that a person's been locked up that long, and especially for charge for a charge she did not commit and
Right.
everything. And I know she did not commit because she's not that kind of person to even commit a crime like that, dear. So we thankful, me and my brother-in-law, we thankful that people like you that would take the time to hear her out and to be honest and to be real, to stand with her. So I just want to take this time and thank you, for that. Yeah, that's just like, they do it wrong. I sent a package there. They got it since March the 6th. They ain't even gave it to us yet. They got
Yeah.
like cups, paper plates, paper spoon, washcloth, watch towels, washcloths, socks, and all kind of stuff like that. And I had them to track it down, and they told me it would deliver March the 6th,
Wow.
7:45 a.m. in the morning. And them people, like I told her last night, that I don't know why they didn't give it to her and everything. So so we just thank God for somebody like you that's able to give her a voice. This here is giving her a voice that she can be able to voice her voice in her own word. And so, I just want to take this time and thank you for that.
Hey, no need to thank me. It's our duty, It's our duty to do this. And I agree with you. She should never have even been in prison in the first place, and she should certainly not still be there. And about the packages, that's always a problem. Like if I send her something, I send her the receipt, and say, okay, they say it got there such a day. And then I send that to her by JPay, and then if she gets it, she can at least show them, so and so signed for it already. It's here, you know. Apparently, there's a lot of backup in the package room in general because what they'll do first, they were understaffed, of course. What they'll do first is they'll do whatever food things, because food can go bad, and then they'll deal with everything else. So but it's always a delay, that's like another thing. You think the thing is there, and then she'll call you, or she'll send me something by JPay and say, hey, whatever happened to this? Where is it? And then I'll say, here it is, so and so signed for it on such a day at such a time. You have, the delivery receipt and the confirmation. So then she can go to the package room with that and say, hey, I know it's here. Can you please find it for me? And that sometimes is a help. So, but that's, yet another delay. So hopefully she will be calling in soon if she can. And if not, we will certainly miss hearing her in her own words. But I understand about the phones, there's a limit on phones, and there's only so many phones, and there's a lot of people who want to use the phone. So that can be, always somewhat problematic. But as I say, go to freejoypowell.org, and you can read all about her case. You can read some of her poetry and some of her writings. You can see some lovely pictures of her with different visitors, pictures of her with her grandchildren. There's an older picture of her with some of her grands, and it'd be great to have the great grands come as well. I'm going to look because there is this Rosenberg Fund for Children. The Rosenberg Fund for Children will assist family members, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of political prisoners to be able to go and visit them. They'll provide financial assistance. So I will get that information and definitely get it to Joy. So. Neo, is she on yet? Anyway, that's another thing though, the Rosenberg Fund for Children, since we're talking about grands and great-grands, it would be great if they could visit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, I'll send her that info.
You got some beautiful grands and great grands. You got some real beautiful. You got two hard-working sons still living, one in Atlanta and one right here in Florida with me. You got three grands, and a great grand here in Florida with me. And we got four grands and maybe about five great grands in New York.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, so I will definitely send that information. If you want to put like your email in the chat, I can also send it to you. So if I send it to her, she might not get it.
Yeah, you can send it to me because she calls me and talk. She called me twice today, but I was in church, so I missed the call.
Right.
Yeah, so I saw that she had called me twice, and maybe now they kind of maybe holding her up from calling now.
Might be.
Yeah, it might not be on her end.
No, I know it's not. She has no control over that.
Yeah, she has no control over that. Yeah.
It would be very unfortunate if they don't let her call. Have you heard anything yet, Neo? Oh, Neo. Not yet. All right. Anyway, as Gregory was saying, there's no control over, whether somebody gets to call or when they get to call. And also because she's hard of hearing, it's also hard sometimes if she's calling and there's a lot of women around making noise, then it makes it hard for her to hear us when we're speaking to her, which is another, problem there. So hopefully we will.
Knowing her, I know she aggravated now. I know she's very aggravated.
Yeah, and then as Alana says, and then the TTY line is so complicated to use. Yes, that TTY thing is a real, I really dislike it. It's like you don't actually get to talk. Joy is on like some kind of little thing where she's typing in what she wants to say. Then the operator reads what she said. Then you talk to the operator and the operator types what you're saying. So you have to speak slowly. And then
My God, yeah, it's the worst.
yeah, it's really bad. It's like, it's better than nothing, but
Of course,
it's really horrible. You don't get to hear each other and, you know, um, and really it's half an hour and you only get 15 minutes because of all the time it takes
Exactly.
for them to do the transcriptions and all that. I sometimes say to them, maybe I should have your job. I type really fast.
I know. I'm like, I feel like you're not quite typing fast enough, but
I'm like, they're always like, wait a minute, can you repeat that?
I know. And it's so sad to not hear Joy answer the phone. She always is like, hi, Lana, and I miss hearing that.
Yeah, I
I
always
can
like when
see
she calls
why.
me, she says, hi, sis. Yeah,
So sweet.
yeah, she is a sweet and lovely human being and certainly should not be in that place. But the other women are blessed that she is there because she has been such a help to everybody in that place. And I always see them all in the visiting room, so I know it's absolutely true. Everybody will be like saying, oh, hi, Rev Joy, and it's, really nice to see that, there's a real feeling of camaraderie among women, and they really appreciate all the help that she gives them. Because she is part of
Yeah.
the inmate liaison committee also. So,
And I know for her birthday, a bunch of that she's close to inside threw her a little surprise birthday party. So I think that also speaks to, what a figure she is for so many that they would put that together for her. Because I know she does that for everyone, but I thought it was sweet that happened.
yeah, that was really nice. She was telling me, yeah, that they had a whole surprise party for her and she was like just so happy about it and was not expecting it. Yes, Neo.
All right. Everyone out here, I'm Yvonne Down. I like to tell you this more where I've been told I'm go back to correctional facility in 2007. I'm certainly honored of the birthday celebration from that reward by Rochester and organized the long-time reporters of myself on I'm also honored to give honor that my older brother Bishop Brown from my comrade Eagle is the high with me Professor Gregory Wright, Ronald, I really think that there was and I think that this is my natural within society on their talent against mental abuse of boundaries of working right now of the earth work that especially the solitary and the drop back the dictate to my teaching again from the perspective of those who find it including myself. I also speak about mental health, which is a severe crisis that I would like to touch on it shortly. As a young lady that this year committed suicide, and they found their body yesterday on certain hospitals remain completed. Yeah, and it's just it's a traumatic event that happened before I talk about that, finish talking about that, I would like to say that members of the Black community, the Bible has had an assault on it by the rich white supremacists who seem to get very uncomfortable with the Constitution or the country, which is the land of the alleged truth. But it really isn't the land of the alleged truth, because there is no such thing as the person's right to speak out against corruption, government corruption, automatically comes from the number one, which has happened to me. And the only thing I'm guilty of is giving up equality and justice for all, because it's strong stand for something that won't do anything. I had an organization that catered children at risk. And also we gave out food baskets every week. Once to visit the sick, the mentally ill, the elderly. But I became an expert when I was go out and organize protests with salads in a mass and just so this, economic development is a mass of concentration, which is crazy how you can find many of most black men there in prison for petty crimes that would turn to major rape and basically causing some of the act of desperation and it's by powerful instituted of the power story where we've been forced to convert to other strategies of resistance, shutting down development of and victims from city and state to state, the home fires, fighting street beats, military rights, police forces such as the one that they're trying to build or they may have even started building in Georgia. And this is also on the black community as well to train police to hunt down and kill brothers and sisters who are driving while black. It's not even safe to walk in certain neighborhoods with a hood on your head or sagging your feet if they have been coming from work or because of the color of your skin just run down like animals and killed, or if some mental illness or you may be run down, such as my son Terrell Blake was in 2018. I found out that he was shot by the police, and I have pictures of police from all different law enforcement, which had on military suits with AR-15, and they shot my son 100 times while he was driving. Basically, this young lady that I want to address as well, she's trying to transform her life, and something traumatic happened and hear voices telling her that they were going to kill her. She had a lot of remorse for her crime. She had been here since she was probably around 19 years old, and she went to OB, which is observation about 3 days ago, and not ready to be, and they put her out. She came back to her unit where officers worked at night and did not move around to look at her cell where she had a whole sheet up and was hung for 5 hours. They found her because someone on my unit had to put the chest in what it was, who AKA name was weak. And we heard a host of women scream and holler and wretched scream because they were horrified of what they saw. They went in her cell and they were saying, please, please, speak, please, speak, please. Oh my God, look. Her tongue was taken out. They said her neck, when they cut her down, her neck was broken and her head was squeezed and her teeth were split as her tongue was taken out of her mouth. Why did incarcerated individuals have to find this person, this young lady, who was a human being in that type of predicament? they are really, really going through this shoreline, and I try to respond to help these women that also feel hopeless, and they feel like there is no other outlet where this supposed to be their concentrated place for helping people to rehabilitate themselves. Yet most of the young people here don't even have jobs, so they turn to drugs or they turn to drinking, taking drinks and things like this. And so this is what we're up against. I have fought with other organizations to help disciplinary guidelines change, wherein they can't just make up stuff to throw you in solitary confinement indefinite as I have been for 4 years. So I'm going to end this by saying I appreciate everybody out here that's standing up for my plight as a wrongful convicted activist, and I am constantly in need of your help because I have a typewriter that can and or because they the typewriter. So I'm able to word processor, but they hate the typewriter. So I thank God for Andrea that will be a different life typewriter prison. I'm the paper, was coaching, and I could send out my pictures and claims and whatever else I'm trying to do into the court, as well as my letter receipt. And so I ask that people will reach out to me and please keep us in prayer if you know how to pray. And put it out there about what happened to the young lady Johnson, because had they did proper care, custody, and control, this young lady would still be alive and has mental health, where the attorney, basically the attorney prisons with the mental health, and they've closed so many mental institutions and sent them here where they're not even qualified to handle the work and rehabilitation of mentally ill people. So instead, they're ignored, abused to the point that they feel hopeless and unloved and rejected. And so I ask, that you all will go into this because not only has this young lady committed suicide, but there's been several others that have committed suicide. I spoke to a therapist today and asked them was he all right, because I noticed that they had help on the unit that the suicide was committed, and with the officers and state police and OSI for probably like 8 hours. They had to remove everybody because they don't want them the body to be moved. However, I asked him was he all right today, and the sergeant told me that he's known to that because he has seen at least 7 other suicides in other prisons that he worked in, and I think that this is totally racist that so many suicides were caused not employees. So no, there has to be change. Thank you. God bless all of you. Assalamu alaikum to all of the Muslims. Shalom, shalom to the Jews. Praise the Lord, everybody, to all of the women and men of God. And I thank you again. Thank you. God bless all of you.
So as you can see, very affected by this suicide, and as she says, it's not the only one. And as Alana said in the chat, that's so horrible. Again, speaks to Joy's empathy for asking how an officer was during that turmoil. So, this is not unprecedented, as Joyce says. If people need mental health, instead of getting mental health care, they are sent to prison instead, where there is no such. It actually makes things worse. If anybody has any kind of, quote unquote mental illness, being in solitary confinement makes that worse. Being in that kind of situation where you're constantly regulated makes that worse. And if people feel that they have no alternative but to take their own lives, it shows you how horrible the system is. And, it behooves all of us to work very hard to, abolish these damnable prisons and try to free as many people as we can. And very glad that we were able to hear from Joy. Thank you so much, Leo. And, it is a birthday celebration, but because of the situation, of course, nobody is very happy about the fact that this poor young woman, Judith Johnson, took her own life. And as Joy was saying, they probably could have saved her life if they had, followed the proper procedures, which they did not do. I was speaking to her yesterday. She called me about this. So, Joy, being her usual empathetic self, is helping the other women, and we're very glad that she is doing that, because that is very important. And, as I say, make sure, be in touch with Joy. She's really an amazing, amazing human being, and she has so much to offer, and we really need to bring her home. She does not need to be in that place. She has been through some horrible experiences in both Albion, where she was before, and now Bedford Hills. And I'm glad she's here because she's closer to me, so it makes it easier for me to go and see her. But Albion is another horrible place. There are only 3 women's prisons in New York State. I want to mention them earlier. Bedford, which is the maximum. Taconic, which is right across the street, is the medium. And then Albion, which is way up north. If you're going up north, you're going like an hour beyond Buffalo to get to Albion. And if you're going on one of these multi-stop prison buses, it's the last stop. And you get a very short visit because they get there late, have to leave early. So, that all being said, go ahead.
Is that illegal in the state of New York and the issues around mental health? The indefinite solitary confinement, is that illegal in the state of New York? And the other one, the mental health issue around mental health and neglect and so forth. Now, you mentioned earlier you were able to get an investigation into the infestations. Are these eight, and you said, well, one of them they're going to push it up. What can be done in this realm in terms of litigation or investigation or otherwise? And is it illegal, or is just something that just happens, or that's just part of it, that's just the way it is?
Well, actually, they did pass a law here in New York State about the solitary confinement. Indefinite solitary confinement is now illegal in the state of New York. Howsoever, a lot of the COs, the so-called correctional officers in the prison system, are not respecting that. We have heard various reports from various prisons throughout the state of people still being held in solitary confinement for more than 15 days. I think it's 15 days now that they're supposed to be able to hold people. There was a long struggle to get that law passed. We've been fighting for it for like at least 10 years, if not longer. And it finally did get passed last year. And then the trouble is that then we have to hold them to the letter of the law. So, that
what about your contact? You indicated earlier in the conversation that you were able to get certain complaints elevated.
Yeah, well, I can talk to the Correctional Association of New York about that. I mean, because that is definitely no longer legal in the state of New York to hold somebody in solitary confinement indefinitely. There is now a limit to how long it can be. And as I say, it took a long time to pass that law. I will definitely speak to the Correctional Association about this issue and see what they can do. As far as any kind of care,
medical neglect in terms of mental health. Oftentimes, in the defined as being the behavior is defined as being demonic and or funny or scary. So people don't do anything.
Yeah,
Or if they do something, it's mental. So at the issue of neglect, how do you substantiate what is neglect? How do you substantiate it? And how do you eliminate it even though it's neglect going on in terms of the mental health issue?
Leo, did you want to say something?
Yeah, hold on just a second. One more thing, Joy, I wanted to add. Here, Joy. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I had something to say that my years have been, I was did I've heard of Jacob right on son. One so around when like I said, still got to do my nephew. My brother Victor Moses Brown son Victor Brown living in place and of course the rest of the building. And that so I would what was I? Was so talented, like to play something from born. Because I came from a deeply inclined family, but just like those people and would play with different characters that came from there. And it haunted for years. I flew out with my brother and his wife. And I just want to say that mental health is real a beautiful thing. Especially wake up and don't know who you are, or wake up and feel like make back to the so the health, I don't know what happened to my health, but I really said that. I just want to know as a memorial as well against this crowd. Maybe for my other son, rest. Power to the people filled up.
Power to the people. All right. Great to hear from Joy twice. That was really good that she was able to call back in. Unfortunately, we lost Alana. She said her internet has completely dropped off. But we are recording this, so we will be putting it up on our YouTube channel. So if anybody missed it, they will be able to hear again and watch again.
Could you speak to the aspect of mental health? And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is oftentimes when there is an episode, the default is a severe beating or severe restraint.
Yeah.
And is this going on as she indicated? And if in fact this is going on, can it be substantiated and what can be done about it?
Yes, we would have to substantiate it, and then we would have to take it to, people who can do something about it. As I say, Correctional Association of New York is one place. They have, they're allowed to go into the prisons without announcing themselves and, do inspections and talk to people. Janeo, did you want to say something? Janeo, you have your hand up. Anyway, that whole issue is really a serious issue throughout all of the death camps throughout this country, both, state and federal. The issue of, mental health is a very serious issue and is not really sufficiently addressed. And we definitely need to do more about it. Janelle, did you want to say something? Janelle Jamal Wali?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. All right. Well, I don't really have much to say about the mental health given situation. Um, I am a impacted individual. I did some New York State time before, but SHU or solitary confinement is a situation that does contribute to mental health issues. And that's a subject, like you said, that needs to be addressed at the time and then brought to the appropriate individuals and stuff so that something can be put together that will accommodate the individual's needs as well as try to like fix the situation that caused the problem at the time. But what I wanted to speak out about is that I does my best to keep regular communications through phone, the kiosk situation with Sister Joy. I know Sister Joy as a kind-hearted individual, loving person, through the contact that we've had, through the kiosk and stuff. I've unfortunately haven't had a chance to get up to visit her as of yet, but I contribute through package when I can, of what I can. And I know her as a devoted Muslim. I know her as one striving in Islam, as well as understanding her spiritual nature all in all. So I've built with her dealing with from Islamic perspectives, from Christian perspectives. She's a kind-hearted, loving individual. I did get a chance to hear her recent poem dealing with Martin Luther King. That was a beautiful poem. She's a brilliant, genius writer, and we need her back home as a leader. I myself is from Rochester, so I'm familiar with her story and her its effect and stuff. And I mean, we just have too much hurt and corruption that involves Sister Joy and other individuals and stuff. We have another story of Betty Tyson, and we have different other situations and stuff of women, you know mothers snatched up out of our community, and that's heartbreaking. So I just like to say that my respect, um my genuine hearted love and concern for the struggle is with Reverend Joy. And I stand in solidarity also with Jericho and all political prisoners. So I like to just say that. Peace, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did put in the chat a link to this Whole Solitary Act so people can actually read it. Apparently, there's also a video. Anyway, yes, the issue of, mental illness and the lack of treatment for mental illness and why mentally ill people are even in prison in the first place is huge. It is a huge, huge issue and really does need to be addressed really seriously by everyone because it is unconscionable, that are put in these situations. And then because they're put in a situation where there is no actual mental health support, and the people who are in charge have no training for that, that if somebody does, act out in a certain way, then it's considered a punishable offense. And then you get punished for something that isn't really your fault. And then the so-called punishment actually makes your mental illness worse. So, it is a very, very serious, serious problem throughout the system. And, I've seen it many times. Used to go visit Robert Seth Hayes up in Wendy Correctional Facility near Buffalo. They had a whole wing for quote unquote people with mental illness. So, it's throughout the prison system, not just in New York State, everywhere. And it is really a horrible violation of people's human rights and really needs to have people work on that. And as I say, let's get these prisons. And okay, thank you, Janaea. Go ahead, Mark.
This is regarding medical neglect. as a weaponization of torture and as a weaponization for obedience. How pervasive is it? And in the context of Reverend Joy Powell, is that prevalent or is that an issue in terms of whether it comes to ear infection or heart failure or colon or whatever else, cysts or whatever, cancer, all these things? How effectively are they being treated? And do you know of anything personally that needs to be addressed relevant to Joy Powell and elsewhere? We know about the situation with Mumia, but in this context.
Well, I know Joy does receive medication for her diabetes. They say that her hearing is so impaired that hearing aids would not help. That's according to an audiologist. I am pushing her to get a new thing for that just to see, because if she's in front of you, you know, she can hear you fine, but a lot of times that's why we use the TTY thing, which was another struggle to get them even to, you know, let her assess the TTY, which is a pain in the quinones, as I say, but it's a way to communicate, because when she's on the phone, as she was before, you could hear there was background noise of other women talking. So since she was speaking and we were not really speaking back to her, that was okay. But she can't really hear when there's like a lot of other background noise going on. And she does have some kind of little amplifier thing she can use when she's on the phone to help her hear better. But, you know, that's a problem. Now, I can't say specifically for Bedford Hills what is the level of deliberate medical neglect. But as you mentioned, you know, Mumia is one case. He's not the only one. You know, Leonard Peltier also. We have other prisoners and plus social prisoners, not just our political prisoners, a whole bunch of elders who do not get the treatment that they need.
What is it? Because it seems to be a gray area when we talk about medical neglect, because the issue of malice and to be able to substantiate malice, and then the institution, the state could say the capacity for treatment. So what really is medical neglect? Because medical neglect to me implies your intention and malice. And is that hard to substantiate?
I would say intention and malice is probably hard to substantiate. The actual medical neglect is not so hard to substantiate because you have records. Now, as our Jericho doctor says, she can only go by what the records say. That doesn't mean that they are actually a reflection of reality. You know, you can write anything in the records to cover yourself, you know, but we know for a fact that they're supposed to, according to, you know, their own guidelines, they are supposed to provide what is known as a community level of care, meaning that people inside are supposed to get the same level of care as people outside. Now, as we know, people outside don't get such a great level of care either. But, you know, that is often not applied. And that is one reason why we often call these places death camps, because many, many people are not getting the care they need. They're not getting the diagnoses they need. They get ignored. They get, you know, written up. Oh, they're just like making that up as a complaint. That kind of stuff goes on all the time. So, you know, in the federal prisons, they have this whole center, FMC Butner, which really deals mostly with people with cancer who end up getting there from the federal system. And just recently, they did a whole study on that. And one of the nurses was saying, she said, the reason that you see that a quarter of the people who come here die is because by the time they get here, it's too late for us to do anything for them. So that's like the constant delays in diagnosis, the constant delays in, you know, saying what's going on, the constant ignoring of people's complaints, you know, and then you end up having people die who don't necessarily need to die and could probably have been saved, you know. So it's really a huge, huge issue. And I don't call it medical neglect. I call it attempted medical assassination, because that's what it is. a lot of times that is very deliberate. And it is not, just by casuality that somebody like, Mumia, for instance, is not getting any health care, like Leonard Peltier, not getting any health care.
What about the plausible denial of capacity?
Well,
Because oftentimes they'll indicate that that the care and the funding is what it allows us to only deliver a minimum level of service. Now, you mentioned a certain thing about standard of care. How does that parallel to the standard of care, and what is a standard of care?
well, we could get into that. I mean, that would be a whole long discussion, but
No, I'm talking about in general, because I think when we talk about medical care, I don't want to be just ambiguous. I want to be
they
able
are
to have
supposed
an
to
understanding
provide,
of a standard of care in terms of my accusation of medical neglect.
they are supposed to provide the same level of care that people in the community get. So that if they do not, that is a violation of the Eighth Amendment, and we talk about cruel and unusual punishment, or as Sekou Odinga used to say, cruel and usual punishment. So there are things that people can do around that issue, but it is a huge issue, and it affects everybody: state prisons, federal prisons, everywhere. And we have so many elders in prison now. Actually, there's a meeting tonight for your elders at 7 p.m. Talking about a lot of those same issues. So, well, this is not limited to Bedford Hills or New York. It's throughout the country. And, a lot of people have been released only to die. A lot of people have died inside who didn't need to die, because of that very same issue. And then you often have, and you got to remember that a lot of the people who are medical personnel who are working in the so-called prison system is because a lot of them couldn't work anywhere else because they're not qualified. So, that's also a serious problem. But anyway, we will definitely look into this situation with Judith Johnson. I'll be talking with Joy. We'll get some, more information on that so that we can, address these issues. But because it is International Women's Month, we did want to take a little time, and Joy agreed to this, to talk about a couple of other women political prisoners, which we do have. And we even have some short videos of them. So people will be patient enough. We will do that. Now, we have Dr. Afia Siddiqui, who is at FMC Carswell, which I know Sister Betty knows well. And it is really amazing, her case, because this goes back to the so-called war on terror, which is, the terrorist entities of imperialism imposing themselves on people of the world and then calling it a war on terror. So she has a lawyer now. His name is Clifford Stafford Smith. He has been very busy digging up further evidence of her torture in U.S. custody and her innocence. And this has been, he's been working day and night with the very willing assistance of many people in Afghanistan to find further evidence of Dr. Afia's torture in U.S. custody and her innocence of the charges. Numerous witnesses proved that Dr. Afia was held in Bagram for a significant part of the 5 years she was missing. She was missing from 2003 to 2008. Nobody knew where she was. They took her children away from her, and then she was moved to another even worse prison. And he said, the lawyer, people who say she was at liberty at that time are lying. So, it's a complicated and long case. We have a lovely, very moving video of her sister, Dr. Fauzia Siddiqui. I would also like to say Dr. Afia Siddiqui is a neuroscientist who graduated from MIT. And she was totally framed up on this totally false accusation that she somehow was surrounded by soldiers somewhere and was able to grab a gun and try to shoot somebody. The woman is like one of the tiniest people you would ever want to meet. So, there's a lot of very made up story when it comes to Dr. Afia Siddiqui. And Jorge if you want to share your screen and show that little video of Dr. Afia, we would appreciate it. Ramsey Clark said, I haven't witnessed such bare injustice in my entire career. Neither did she kill, nor did she attempt at it. In fact, she was shot 3 times. It is an open violation of international laws. I regret that the US violated the rules.
Just when I got in and there was the glass and they had us come in and we were waiting on this side and it was a small cubicle-like room, concrete, with just a glass in the middle and a really thick glass. And then suddenly, you know, I hear a voice, a very distinct voice that was obvious that I recognized, and saying, why are you bringing me here? What is that? And they just brought her in, pushed her in and closed the door. And there she was standing. She looked towards the window, the glass, and she saw me. And I couldn't hear what she said because you have to talk on the phone to hear. But she just, you know, like just approached the glass like this. And I just saw that. And when I saw her face, I was just staring at it. And as she came to the glass, I also went to the glass. And for a moment, we forgot that there's something in between. But then reality struck. But, you know, brother, I did not recognize her voice, yes. But I was just looking at this. This is my Afia. This is my Afia. This, I mean, I don't know what she was saying. I picked up the phone and I really, she did say, आप तो पहले से भी ज़्यादा पतली हो गई हैं. But other than that, and she was asking how is everybody in that, but all I was doing for a while was just staring. With this, it looked, to be honest, it looked like they pulled out a skeleton from the grave and just put some skin and, you know, some skin and put eyes in it. That's it.
What sort of reaction did you notice from Afia when she saw you for the first time, Dr. Fozia?
There was a glimmer in her eyes. The one less than a minute glimmer in her eyes, and then the glass just came, and you know, there was a shine, and then that was it. And then it was just like that. I mean, I was crying, but she was just like, I don't have the words to describe it. It was, I don't know how to describe what that was and what her reaction was. It was just something that's just, I don't have the words. And but then, I mean, you know, she asked about her children. She asked about her baby. I evaded the question about the baby, and I said, first of all, let me tell you about Emma. Listen about Emma. Then she kept coming back to the baby, and I kept going back to Emma. Then I said, he's a doctor now, and she says he's 6 years old. So she was frozen in time for a bit, and then she's like, oh yes, it's now. So now he's become a doctor. So I did understand that. I mean, I'm a trained neurologist, and I mean, even then it was very difficult for me to say how traumatized she was. And you know, the main trauma was taking her children away from her. That little baby in her lap. Those little children, Ahmed and Mariam, being snatched away. That was the frozen in time, the trauma that was the most devastating. That is the hollow and the lifelessness in her eyes that you could see. There was no twinkle, there was no shine. It was just like what we call in Urdu zindalash, like a corpse sitting in front of you.
But, you know, Dr. Fozia, you know, as you mentioned that you are a trained neurologist, and when this happens to you personally, I suppose, you know, you even forget what you are actually trained for. And
True.
just the shock in itself, just the shock in itself. And I'm sure that you were deeply shocked when you saw, you must have frozen for a while. And like you mentioned, is there are times you don't even know what to say. You don't even know how to approach the situation when you are faced with this. And also a case of so near yet so far, because you've got this plexiglass that is separating you and your sister. You couldn't hold her, you couldn't touch her, you couldn't even hug her.
That is very true. That is very true. That's exact. I mean, I think you summed it up better than I could. But other than that, I mean, obviously, it was a 90-minute long meeting. And then the next day we had a meeting with the senator. And the next day I had another meeting alone. The good thing was I could get some money into her commissary, which she got and she was able to use. So that was a good thing. She actually even said that she bought some tea because she liked tea, but you know, in the prison all they get is a coffee, and since her money that we were sending, God knows, was going where. So this money that I transferred immediately, the next day she got it, and so she was very happy about that. She said she got a 6-pack of Dr. Peppers and cans, and she distributed those to the other few prisoners in the admin unit. So that's Afia. I mean, she gets something, so she has to share with everyone, but that's who she is.
Well, even in that state, Dr. Fozia, you know, you mentioned the term Zindalash, and even in that state, and we know Afia, and when you had visited South Africa, you always spoke about the type of person she was, how caring she was, even for animals as well, animals in distress. And, you know, that quality of hers, and saying that, you know, distributing things amongst the fellow prisoners as well. That's still, that quality she still has of being generous and being caring for those around her.
Oh, yes. Not only that, I mean, with the senator, she also recited some of Allama Iqbal's poetry. And the senator also recited some that he knew. And so they had a good poetry exchange. And he was mentioning an ayah from Surah Maryam, and I think he got it a little wrong or something, and after recited the whole ruku, you know, from the surah, and said this is how it is and this is the context. So as far as the Quran goes, and you know, when it comes to her children, the past, when she talks of them as a baby, when she talks about Maryam and how she would just be clinging to her and what a clingy baby she was, and how she must be coping, and does she miss me, does she even remember me, and she said maybe it's better that they just forget, and you know, things like that. And but she would come back to asking how Ammi is, and I would just, every time she asked, I would say, you know, Ammi gave you a message that you're not to lose hope, you're to hang in there, and inshallah times will change, and inshallah whatever happens it will be for the best. Ammi said she is watching over you now, and she's closer to you than you can imagine. And, you know, I would just say things and say, you know, Ammi always does a hisar around you, so you will always be safe. And she used to do that. I try to now, but, and just things like that. And then she would say, okay, can you tell Ammi to not worry about me and her health. So Clive, our lawyer, he slowly, gradually was breaking the news to Afia that, you know, she's very ill these days, and that's why she couldn't come, and, you know, she might not be living for long, and that. So for the next visit, inshallah, you know, we're going to slowly break the news to her, probably. But this time I couldn't. I just couldn't. Not talk of Suleiman and not talk of that. But Suleiman, Afia herself said that she thinks he's dead because she saw him in a pool of blood.
So that was Dr. Afia Siddiqui's sister. After having seen her for the first time in 20 years. 20 years. Because Afia was, held at one of these CIA black sites. She was known as prisoner 650. The other prisoners used to hear her screams while she was being tortured. So, it's a very serious case. And you can go to afiamovement.com. There's a lot of information there about her, if you want to know more about her. And, people in Pakistan, which is where she's from, have been working hard to try to at least get her transferred there. And looks like through the attorney that possibly may happen. There's some very good videos of the attorney speaking as well. So I would advise people to check that out because, Dr. Afia Siddiqui is definitely a victim of the so-called war on terror. And, after you don't see your sister for 20 years, you can't even have a contact visit. It's just horrible what they do to people. So that's one person who is very important for International Women's Month. And we also have a friend, if I can find her here, Jessica Reznicek. Now, Jessica Reznicek is a water protector. And Jessica Reznicek is also somebody who was affected by the so-called laws against terror because they gave her a terrorism enhancement, which is pretty amazing. Now, Jessica, what she did is certainly not considered terrorism. She and her co-defendant, hold on that there for a minute, Jorge, and basically went and drilled some holes in some of the pipes that were going to be used for the Dakota Access Pipeline. They were not connected to anything. They did not hurt anybody. They did not cause any oil spills, right? And then when she went to court, they hit her with a so-called terrorism enhancement, and they have designated her as a domestic terrorist. And just so people might know a little bit about Jessica, and you can go to her website as well, support Jessica Reznicek, very good stuff. Jessica worked with Catholic Worker in the homeless populations of Duluth and Des Moines, and worked on third-party accompaniment work as well in Palestine. She was an organizer during Occupy Wall Street, both at Sakoti and in Des Moines. She's campaigned against weapons contractor Northrop Grumman in Omaha and protested the drone base in Des Moines. She also protested the construction of a U.S. naval base on Jeju Island in South Korea so as to save the sacred Goryeo rock in the village of Ganjiang. So on February 6, 2021, she pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to damage an energy facility. And then on June 30th, 2021, she was designated a domestic terrorist by the court and sentenced to 8 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation and a restitution of more than $3 million to be paid to Energy Transfer LLC, which were the people building the pipeline. So she reported to federal prison on August 11, 2021, and she appealed her sentence with her legal team and the use of a terrorism enhancement. Unfortunately, the 3 Trump-appointed appeal judges upheld her conviction and upheld the terrorism enhancement, even though it was misapplied. They claimed it was "quote unquote" harmless error. Now, this terrorism enhancement increased Jessica's sentence 5-fold. So this helped the judge justify sentencing her to 10 years versus the 3 years that the guidelines originally suggested. And Jessica has a deep love for nature, camping, swimming, hiking, theology, music, gardening, laughter, and eco-sustainability, as well as a commitment to self-discovery through deep relationships cultivated in intentional, faith-based community living. And you can learn more about Jessica at supportjessicareznicek.com, which I will stick in the chat. And then Jorge will nicely share this short video of Jessica.
Bottom line is we want this pipeline stopped, and we are peaceful people who need to exercise peaceful means of doing it. And what are our options? And let's look at this critically and say what really stops pipelines.
On election night in 2016, Jessica Resnicek and another woman disabled pipeline construction equipment, and then later used a welder to cut small holes in sections of an empty pipe, which would eventually be added to the 1,100-mile-long tube that carries crude oil from North Dakota to Illinois and passes through her home state of Iowa.
After delaying the flow of oil for months, Jessica and her partner took responsibility for their actions in a public press conference.
In her statement, Jessica wrote that after exhausting all avenues of process, from petitions for environmental impact statements and public comment periods, to hunger strikes, marches, boycotts, and civil disobedience, she took her actions as a last resort.
For Jessica, who grew up in a small town and spent her childhood swimming in local rivers, preventing the pipeline from contaminating the land was personal.
As a very young child, I would go to the river for peace, for solace, for healing. I remember at that time you could swim in the water. I remember just like, even as a young child, just plunging underneath that water and like kind of like plugging my nose, and then all you could just hear and feel and see was this life around me.
Biden's Department of Justice has declared Jessica a domestic terrorist, sentenced her to 8 years in prison and millions of dollars in fines paid to the pipeline company.
Her case is important, and it's because it's not unique.
Laws specifically criminalizing environmental protests have now been passed or put on the table in most U.S. states.
The moment anyone seriously challenges a corporation's freedom to push us closer to the cliff,
the government uses the language of terrorism and they make you disappear.
That's why Jessica's legal team, with help from supporting groups, is appealing the terrorism enhancement
to pressure the courts to reverse this dangerous precedent.
More than 100 groups and 13,000 people have already signed the petition supporting her case.
What they're doing to Jess, they could do to any of us. We can't let that happen.
Thank you, Jorge, for that. Really appreciate it. So as you can see, this so-called war on terrorism is a war against all of us. And it's being, of course, done by the terrorist imperialist government of the United States. So, what Jessica did was not, there's no way that's terrorism. You can't say that, making holes in some pipes is somehow terrorism. What they did to the people who were protesting against the Dakota Access Pipeline, I would pretty much say was terrorism, when they were beating people up and, pepper spraying them and hauling them off to prison and all kinds of things like that. So, we know what we're up against. I would have liked to have somebody here from Cop City as well. They weren't able to make it because they're doing something else at this time, but that's another thing that we have to pay strict attention to. Cop City is not just in Atlanta, folks. They have 79 what they call fusion centers throughout this country that they started after 9/11, when they started the so-called war on terror, which seems to be a war of terror, as far as I'm concerned. So, a lot of work we need to do. We expect to have more political prisoners in the coming days, not less. We're trying to get a lot of our elders home, but we also have to consider the fact that we are going to have more political prisoners, and we will need to support them. The people who are fighting against Cop City in Atlanta are facing very serious RICO charges, because Georgia has like this real special RICO law, which is even worse than the federal one. And, the things they're charging people with don't even fit under RICO. Somehow having a bail fund is a RICO violation. Where does the racketeering come in on that? So, all kinds of horrible things going on there, and we need to pay strict attention. So, but I would encourage everybody, go to supportjessicaresnicek.com. She's also on Facebook, also social media. You can write to her. You can write. I don't know if you can write to Dr. Fia Siddiqui. I have tried. Don't know if she's ever received any of my mail. And, we got to pick up the work. As Ralph said, it's up to us now. And, we are having a memorial for Ralph Pointer on March 21st, which would have been his 90th birthday. So please make sure there's a Facebook event page. It's also on jerichony.org. Please feel free to come out and remember Ralph Pointer and his endless struggle against the system since he was a young man. And, born in Western Pennsylvania, son of a steelworker. He was always a union man. I know that Sister Betty could say more about it. If you would like to say a few words, Sister Betty, feel free.
Actually, Ann, I think you did a fantastic job. I want to commend you on your program in spite of the technical difficulties. It's not just, as you said, a question of the political prisoners who were attacked by our system for standing up for freedom over 50 years ago. It's a question of a new group of political prisoners because the empire of the United States, of what they call America, is at war with the entire planet. I think that's obvious.
Yes.
And those of us who understand the struggle, we do have to step up to the work. We have to pick up the work and step up to the plate. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it. And I'm not just concerned for the Palestinians, because if you look at Gaza, we've seen this before. The bombing of the Move family,
Yes.
that was a mini Gaza. The massacre at Tulsa, a mini Gaza. And if you look all over this land that we occupy, there used to be several nations here. They are gone. So Gaza's it's about real estate when you have imperialism. And they need more real estate because they have used up all the resources on this planet. So I hope people can come out and celebrate. You should also know that Sarah Founders is having an event at 8 p.m. as well. There's a lot going on in New York City, but we all support each other. And that's the way we're going to get through this. Thanks, Ann. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Betty. And that is true. The only way we're going to be able to, continue doing what we're doing and pick up the work and fight for freedom for ourselves and for everybody else is to be united. We have to be united in principle. Otherwise, we are not going to get anywhere. And that is, something that all of our prisoners would tell you in a second, And it was something that Paulette said a long time ago, which is totally true. She says, if we had the same level of unity and principle out here as our sisters and brothers behind the walls have, this whole situation would be completely different. So, that is up to us. It's up to us, as Ralph said. We have to pick up the work and we have to fight. We have to fight this system. We have no other choice. So I would encourage everybody to do everything possible to fight the system. I saw your note, Gwen. I don't know if we can write to Athea because she has the SAMs, the special administrative measures, but we can try anyway. I mean, send it certified mail. If they won't let her have it, they'll send it back to you. And, let's remember this is Women's History Month. It's also today is the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan for our Muslim comrades. So everybody should keep everybody in their prayers if you believe in prayer. And if you don't, that's fine too. And, get ready to, fight to the last bit and drop of energy that we have against this system, because it is just getting worse and worse and worse. And, we are responsible for our children and their children and their children, as our Native Americans friends say, to the 7th generation. Think about what you do and what effect it will have to the 7th generation after you. So all I have to say is, what's the call? Free them all.